Hi, everyone. Welcome back to The Conversationalist. My name is Sophie Barron, founder and CEO of TC, and I could not be more excited to welcome all of you to tonight's conversation. We are back for another live panel with an incredibly important subject to discuss tonight. So thank you all for coming out on a Thursday night. We know our panels are typically on Tuesdays, and we are just so excited to bring this to a new day of the week, double the conversations, double the fun ahead of this holiday season. We already see so many awesome faces in the live chat. Hey, Andy. Hey, Alex, Taylor, Laura, Desanka, Rena. Wow, so many people are here. Christine, hello. Please say hey in the chat. This is a conversation, and that is what we are all about here at TC. For those of you who this is your first time with The Conversationalist, just a word about us. We are the go-to destination to amplify Gen Z voices. We are on a mission to unify the world one conversation at a time, and we are so grateful to have you as a part of our mission. And if you feel inspired by tonight's conversation, join our online community. This is our forum to have important conversations about anything and everything under the sun that matters to you 24/7. All the time. All you have to do is text the word unify to 877-222-1119. Join us on Geneva for more important conversations. And right after tonight's panel, we'll be hosting an after party in Geneva where you can come get to know our panelists a bit better, dive deeper, and have more conversations that matter. But without further ado, we are here tonight to talk about body positivity. This, especially for me, is an important topic and is something that I personally struggle with on a day-to-day basis. And this topic really is near and dear to my heart, as I know it is to so many, especially with Thanksgiving around the corner. So what a better time to have this important dialogue around the topics of body image and body positivity. So it is my honor to introduce our fabulous panelists for this evening so we can get the conversation started. So first up, we have a college student and body positive blogger who runs her own blog called Virtually Vogue, where she focuses on representation, self-love, and embracing your real self. She's currently working as an Aerie brand ambassador, and we're so excited to welcome her to the stage. Welcome, Fatima Burgos. Hey, welcome. Okay, next up, we have a body positivity and self-love advocate. They're focused on empowering people, spreading positivity, and are always here to be a part of change. Welcome, Travis Williams. Hello. Awesome. We are so thrilled next to welcome a fashion and lifestyle content creator. She wants to share her experiences about body positivity, being a Black woman in college, and really show us how she navigates life. So say hello to our next panelist, Amanda Roberts. Hey, Amanda, welcome to the stage. So happy you're here. Next up, we have someone who I am sure will be at home broadcasting to all of you. It may or may not be the middle of the night for this individual, all the way across the pond. He is an actor and comedian from London and a male body positivity and male mental health activist. So we're so excited to welcome Brett Sinclair to the stage. Hey, Brett, welcome. Awesome. So next up, we have student activist Ria Goyle. Ria co-founded and is the co-CEO of Asians Lead and Geminism, a youth-based intersectional feminist movement, and we're so happy to have her as a part of our community. Welcome, Ria. Hello. Awesome. So great to see all of your faces. Next up, we have a Latino artist and photographer based out of Texas who uses vibrant and youthful storytelling to bring more diverse bodies and people from different backgrounds to the forefront so that no one feels unseen. Welcome, Alexi Reyes. Welcome. Hello. Awesome. Next up, we have a 22-year-old positive lifestyle blogger and body acceptance activist, Marisa Littlefield. Welcome, Marisa. Hello. Awesome. And last up, but certainly not least, we have a No Labels member. He's also a Special Olympic athlete, and just like you and me, he is looking forward to the body positivity panel, and we're so happy to have him as a part of the conversationalist community. Welcome to the stage, Ethan Cassidy. Hey, Ethan. Awesome. So welcome all. We're so happy to have you as a part of tonight's discussion. And without further ado, we want to introduce our guest host for the evening. So I am thrilled to introduce our guest host, who is truly one of the most wonderful people I've had the honor of meeting, James Rose. James is a longtime supporter of The Conversationalist and was a part of our first ever video series over a year ago in NYC, and they have been such a positive supporter of our movement here at the Conversationalist. They are a non-binary New York City-based actor, health at every size personal trainer, trauma-informed yoga teacher, and co-host of the Full Soul Nutrition podcast. They write about gender, eating disorder recovery, sex, their feelings, and their exes on their Instagram at James is Smiling, where they hope to leave the internet a little bit better than they found it. Welcome to the stage, our guest host for the evening, James Rose. James, welcome.
Hi. Oh, Sophie, I'll never top that introduction. That was so kind of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to pass you the mic, James, and have a wonderful conversation.
Thank
Bye,
you
everyone.
so much. I know that some of y'all might have been expecting Moira, and I'm so sorry to disappoint that I wasn't on Love Island yet. However, even more exciting is all of these wonderful voices that we're going to get to hear from, and I'm so excited to learn from all of our panelists today. So body positivity is a subject that I think everyone can relate to because we all have an experience with body and body image. We all have a body. We all exist in today's day and age, and we're all subject to all sorts of different media and different ideas. And so I would love for us to just talk about what body positivity means to us. Amanda, would you care to give us your definition in your own words?
So yeah, for me, body positivity, it's so important. It's all about self-love and just accepting yourself no matter where you are with weight gain, whether you're losing weight, no matter where you are, just accepting that you are the best version of yourself, just loving yourself.
Thank you so much for that. Alexi, would you add anything to that?
I think Amanda, her experience, I believe like there's so much your body can change and just be all sorts of on different stages. But I think it's important now to like love yourself and not wait for something to like happen to your body or change your body. I think it's important to find self-love now and continue that through on your life.
Sounds like you're talking about giving yourself unconditional permission to accept where you are right now.
Right.
And I'm curious as to how this body image idea impacts your mental health. I know this is something you've written a little bit about, and I'd love to hear your perspective.
I mean, in all honesty, body image and mental health. Now, it's all about being mentally positive and healthy body image. It's all about the being one in mind. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're skinny or big. It doesn't matter if you're sick or healthy. All that matters is we all have to embrace our inner self and our mental health. No matter what size our bodies are, no matter what our mental health is. That's the point.
Thank you so much for sharing that about these different intersections. For sure, this is something that we can all relate to, and our various identities are definitely going to impact our relationship with body positivity. Since we're Gen Z here, I think we're all familiar with social media. And Ria, I would love to hear how social media has impacted your body image specifically.
I mean, before I even answer that, I think I just want to throw out a Dr. Seuss quote that I love. It's called, it goes, "You are you, that is truth and true. There's no one alive that is youer than you." And I think I just want to keep that in this panel because no matter what kind of social media influencers or actors or whoever you might be that you idolize on social media, puts out, you are you. I mean, there's no one alive that is you. And so why wouldn't you want to be you? And I know it's a lot of yous in there, but I mean, I think you're just your incredibly true self, and to embrace that and put that out there is what we have to do, to ourselves to stay healthy and to stay positive and to be ourselves. So yeah.
I'm hearing this common theme amongst all of you that have spoken on this so far, that it's about your own personal experience, even though we're having these ideas seemingly thrust on us from all sorts of different media outlets. So I would love to hear, Marisa, do you feel any pressure with any current beauty standards, especially in your work today, as that relates to body positivity for you?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, I mean, the amazing thing about social media is that we all can connect with each other, but seeing so many people can create the unfortunate side effect of comparing. And I see a lot of that with, you know, different influencers and bloggers. And it's hard, you know, especially, I mean, I struggled with this for so many years. And for me, the key was really just surrounding myself with the right influencers, you know, seeing all the different body types that there are. And I think what's so hard is sometimes social media, you can really just like find yourself on a lane and just, you're just surrounded by the same type and the same people. And you really just got to go looking for it, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, what you're talking about, I think, sounds like the echo chamber of social media. And, you know, at the Conversationalist, we're looking at breaking out of those echo chambers. So, open question for anybody on the panel who wants to answer it. Is there a time during your experience with social media where you have had a positive experience with body image, or you've ever felt positively towards your body? Anyone care to share? Yeah, Brett.
Yeah, so actually it was probably a couple of months ago that I started really talking about male body positivity on social media, because I hadn't seen much conversation around like guys and men like embracing their bodies in their sort of natural form. And since then, the response has been like overwhelmingly positive, which just says to me that there is definitely this sort of outcry for males feel as though they can be vulnerable and sensitive, and you know, talk about the things that are really affecting their mental health. So I have to say that, like, in my experience, since talking about body positivity, social media has just been really, really positive, and you know, a good place to be involved in all of it, I guess.
Thank you so much for sharing. Let's go Marisa and then Fatima.
I can definitely agree with that. It's when I first went on social media, I was like, I saw, you know, people who were all the same type. But then for me, I really felt that change when I found, her name is The Bird's Papaya. I don't know if anybody has followed her, but I absolutely love her. And when I found her, and she was just so proud of her body and all parts of it, you know, the stretch marks, scars, the curves, and she really loved every part of her body, and she was so proud of it. And when I saw that and I felt that energy, I think for me, that's when that shift, I felt that shift and I wanted to replicate it and feel it myself. I wanted to have that pride in myself that she had. So for me, that was such a positive experience. And from her, I found other people and a community that really thought and felt the same way. And I think, you know, that's an example of all of the great things that you can, one of the great things about Instagram and social media.
I absolutely agree, Fatima. Before I turn it over to you, I want to add to that social media was the first place I learned about body positivity, from fat Black women who were like, I am not represented in any spaces and this is wrong. And so we owe a lot of where we are right now to fat Black women, and especially fat Black trans women who said, you know, I deserve to be in this space. And then it created this snowball effect that allowed us to be where we are. And I appreciate both of you speaking on that and pointing out that there is this dual function. Like sometimes it can be a place where we do find community. Fatima, is there anything that you want to add to that?
No, thank you for mentioning that. I think that's so important that we credit like where this whole movement has started. And in order for all of us to be here, we have to give that credit. So I think that's super important. But I think that, yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason that I started my blog, is because I feel like I never really saw bodies that looked like mine represented in the blogging industry or the fashion industry. And yet I was still so passionate about dressing up and feeling good. And I wanted to share that with everybody. And, you know, that's how I got to be an Aerie ambassador and work with them. And recently I did a lingerie shoot for them, which was something that was so out of my comfort zone that I never imagined, like putting a body like mine in lingerie and posting it on Instagram and being like, I feel good and all of you should feel good, you know? So I think you can really find that community online, and it's just about following the right people. Like you should follow people that make you feel good about yourself when you're scrolling through your feed, you know, not someone that makes you question your worth or or anything like that.
Absolutely. Travis, you talk a lot on social media about like just spreading positivity and spreading joy. At what point did that start to intersect with body image?
I definitely think it started when, I think more during the pandemic specifically. I think because I've always been worried about my body shape. I've always like seen photos of myself like, rah, I'm that big. But I definitely think as well that I've always had toxic traits in the past. And I think one thing me, that growth is something that I really love about myself, that I've grown so much. And I just think spreading positivity is so important because we never know what someone's going through behind closed doors. And I just think if you're positive, it's so much better for the world, you know. We have
Travis, that's such a great point because everyone is fighting a battle that we know nothing about. That's one of my favorite quotes. Ria, earlier you shared a Dr. Seuss one. I don't think mine can be attributed to Dr. Seuss, unfortunately, but that's so true. I've got a couple like just rapid fire questions that if the answer is yes for all the panelists, just like raise your hand. And if it's no, keep it down. But Travis, you were talking about how during the pandemic, you started to see more of your body as something that you needed to look at in a positive light. Out of all of us here in this room, raise your hand if you have had any sort of realization or reconnection with body image during quarantine. Okay, so most of us, if not all of us, yeah. Raise your hand if you've had a day where you have struggled with your body image during quarantine. Okay, yeah, raise your hand if there are days that are better and days where it is tougher to look in the mirror. Absolutely. I just want to humanize that for a second because oftentimes when we get into these spaces, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, everything is so great. Just like love your body and your stretch marks and your size and your skin color and however you want to present your body. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, well, how do I do that? Like, I want to do that one day. And it's like, we are all struggling too, like there are definitely days where this gets really difficult. And a lot of us are public on social media and we like to talk about this and we come under scrutiny and under fire. So for anyone who would like to answer on the panel, when it gets difficult, what are the ways in which you reconnect with your body as something that is beautiful and as a source of positivity? Brett, then Marisa, and then we'll keep going.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up because I think this is a really vital part of the conversation around body positivity. I think sometimes this conversation we can get lost in insecurity and we kind of want to shut that out, but I think it's so important to recognize that you can still be body positive and it's still okay to have insecurities. They are valid. It's okay that you're feeling that way. For me, it's just about changing the language around the way that you talk to yourself about those insecurities. And it's saying, hey, I'm not feeling that good today, but that's okay. I'm allowed to feel that way. And I know that this moment will probably pass. And I don't feel good because I recently over lockdown I've gained a bit of weight and I've wanted to do that for such a long time, and your mind plays such a trick on you because you're like, hey, I'm starting to gain this weight but I'm feeling bigger, but you just recognize that like I'm more than what my body is. I am a brain, I am intelligent, I'm funny, and you gently just go gently with yourself. That's what I do.
One of my favorite quotes that I heard from a Health at Every Size dietitian was, your body is actually the least interesting thing about you.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a fascinating perspective. I mean, our bodies are so beautiful and they do tell stories, but like, my goodness, if we only reduced our worth to that, we would have the culture that we have. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, I just think that like we have so much more to offer than just what we look like, and it's amazing that we all look different and differently, and we are all beautiful. And we all are in different shapes and sizes. But what I find really interesting is that a lot of us, I know that I get really insecure sometimes because I don't fit a certain body type that I see a lot on social media. But if all of us look like that, what a boring place it would be. And that's not to discredit the way anyone else looks. It's just about, like, my favorite phrase is, you do you. You do you. Be you. And it goes back to the Dr. Seuss quote, which I loved, by the way. Yeah, I can't put it better than Dr. Seuss. He's the OG.
So absolutely. So we've got some holidays coming up, and body image tends to be like the talk of the town when it comes to holidays, where we get together and we eat food and we celebrate things, and inevitably there are comments on what we look like and things like that, which can be, of course, triggering, and of course it can be difficult. And so I would love to hear what your experiences are with the holidays and any coping mechanisms that you have for this. Alexi, I would love to hear from you if you want to share.
Yeah, so I think with holidays, I really just try not to think too much about like how much or like how I guess like weight, like watching my weight. I kind of just eat like I would normally eat, and just like remind myself that okay, if I do gain weight after the holidays or during the holidays, there's always time for change. I can go work out, lose that weight, or like it doesn't really like affect in the long run. It can be like, I guess it can take a mental toll on you, but it's really I feel like it shouldn't, because it's just like a time to be happy, to celebrate, be with family, and not worry too much about I think things you can like change.
Absolutely. It sounds like staying present in this moment is what helps you take the moment as it is. Fatima, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think there's an aspect of it of like questioning and kind of standing up for yourself. I think that a lot of us were taught to just take things and be quiet about it. You know, when we get comments about our body or needing to lose weight, and I think it's just important to push back sometimes. You know, it's harder to do than it is to just say like, you know, quiet someone or whatever, but you have to kind of push back or else it's never going to stop. And whether you want to question somebody by being like, why would you say something like that? Or, you know, why do you feel entitled to make comments about my body? Like, I think that you are entitled to defend yourself, and you should in those moments. And also for other people, because I feel like, you know, you hear comments about other family members getting criticized and stuff like that. And I think it's just small actions that we can all take every day to kind of combat all of this body negativity that surrounds us.
Thank you for bringing that up. I don't want to put this word in your mouth, but it sounds like you're talking about combating fat phobia, that people walk in and have this incredible judgment surrounding anybody who is fat or lives in a larger body. And the truth is that all bodies are worthy and worthy of being defended. And your choices are not somebody else's, you know, that's not their place to judge. And I appreciate you bringing that up. Ethan, I'm seeing your enthusiastic thumbs up. Is there anything that you want to add to that?
Yeah. I mean, what Bisu said, they make sense. I mean, and be you come in, then like you got turkey, you got gravy, you got stuffing, potatoes, and yeah, you're probably gonna be full, a little sleepy. I mean, you probably got to worry about it later, because right now all we have to do is enjoy Thanksgiving and the holidays as much as we want. Live as we can.
Absolutely. It's about enjoying the actual celebration. And of course, there's some controversy with the one that's coming up that I do think is important to acknowledge. And at the same time, we can enjoy, like, you know, if you're able to be with family, or if you're with your chosen family, or if you're celebrating with yourself, that can also be an empowering thing. It's not about what we look like or what we're eating. It's about the enjoyment of it. And I really appreciate your bringing that thought process to the table. Yeah, Taylor, intuitive eating, your body needs food for the soul, and restriction is not what you eat. Absolutely. Like, the reason that we eat is because we need to live. And I think that the more that we can reconnect ourselves to like, that's part of being alive. And we put judgment on it because we wanted to, keep other people down and try to oppress them. And it has worked. And Amanda, I am curious if there's anything in the landscape of the body positive conversation that you wish we could address more, or that you would want to shed more light on.
Yeah. So one thing that I really want to hear everyone else's like opinion is like, what have you? So in terms of like media, like social media, do you feel like that has like stopped you from like in your self love journey and like you loving your body? Do you really feel like that had a big effect in that area?
So an interrogation, it sounds like. Yeah, Ria, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard for a lot of Gen Zers because we've grown up on social media. Before middle school, around middle school, I think I got social media. And so for my entire, growing up adolescent period, I've, had to kind of have these confirmations of, hey, you look too fat, or like you shouldn't be wearing things like that because it doesn't fit your body type. And so there's like this notion of imposter syndrome where it's like, I want to be you, but I don't want to be myself. And so that's where you start to question, hey, am I good enough? Like, should I be doing something better? Like, am I doing enough? And all of those kind of insecurities come back. And so I think that's the tough part with everything. And that's something that I don't think we talk about enough. And also, the more we look at like content that isn't necessarily the healthiest for us, the more our For You page shows that for us. I mean, our For You pages are getting way too accurate. They're way too accurate. They come way too hard. But it's because it goes off of content that we've looked at. So if we're living this negative bubble, we keep, I guess, having that again and again showing up on our feeds. And so that, I think, something we need to talk about more as
because
well.
I have found that I have difficulty following people who are only body positive people because I need to see them as full human beings with full experiences. Like, I talk a lot about eating disorder recovery because that's like my own journey with this. And I followed a lot of accounts that were strictly that. And just as you said, it's like then we get into this one track mindset. And to me, that became even deeper because it was like, wait a minute, I need more nuance to this conversation. Was that a hand raise, or was that just like my hair is incredible and I wanted you to know?
No, it was a hand raise. I mean, I feel the exact same way. I saw a comment a friend of mine made once, and it really hit me. She said, why is it that when I follow all these body positive people, I feel so ashamed when I can't reach that level of positivity? And I feel like we hit on that a little bit before, but I feel like this is a side of body positivity we don't talk about, which is the struggle. I mean, I share a lot about body positivity, but I also try to share a lot about how to deal with the bad days and to make it a point to say, I have them too. It's okay to look in the mirror one day and to feel sad, but it's okay another day to look in it and just feel like you're on top of the world. And for me, it's just a constant reminder that we are on a journey, and it's always ups and downs, but every step we take, no matter how small, it deserves to be celebrated.
Thank you for sharing that. It does deserve to be celebrated. And any step is a step in the right direction. Even the moments where you feel like you're regressing and you notice it, you're actually progressing because you're aware of what's happening. And you now have more tools at your disposal to work through this and work forward. Travis, since you are so positive on social media, do you have any advice for people who are looking to cultivate a healthier relationship with both positivity on social media and just with interacting with the forum in general?
I would definitely say one of the things that I think that helps me a lot is sometimes taking a break from social media. That's one of the biggest things. It's really important as well to take those breaks. But one thing that I also think has really helped me is getting a notepad and writing everything down. I think we as people, we tend to use our notes a lot, but having that paper in front of us really helps me a lot. I write down how I'm feeling, my emotions, if I'm upset, if I'm happy, because I think a lot of the times I will go on social media and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I don't look like this, I don't look like that, and I think, also following the right people. For example, I follow Brett today as well, and I saw his Instagram and I was like, whoa, like, Yeah, I like that. Like, it's like I think you just have to see people that inspire you so you can stay inspired as well. And I definitely, when I saw Brett's Instagram, I was like, yep, like I'm gonna go for everyone's Instagram. But it's like when you see content that you like, you stay inspired and you're like, yep, I want to do that as well. Like, and I think that's something that I think is good to people, just to keep staying inspired, write your notes down, write how you're feeling, like maybe even video or so, but find something that helps you channel your emotions and really work on those emotions as well and find ways to express them. If that's through social media, if that's through painting, if that's through singing, if that's through rapping, if that's through makeup, find a way to really channel that and really, keep being positive about yourself.
Travis, I love that you took it a step forward. Instead of just follow people that make you feel good, interrogate why that is and what your feelings are. Because I think we get dependent on, I'm seeing some nods, I'm just like, yes. I think we get dependent on people who are positive forces on the internet. Like I, in a similar way, try to, make things a little better than when they found them. But like, it would be inappropriate for me to like want everyone to be dependent on that, right? It's like, no, we want to empower other people to find the small joys that we do. And like, we may not share the moments where we're crying in the mirror, like Marisa was saying, the days that are really difficult, or, those are the things that we don't always share, but they are as much the reality. And so if you can use social media as a tool to seek inspiration to get back to that place or to help you cope with what's going on, then and interrogate those feelings within yourself, then perhaps we can build a healthier relationship with the media images that we have certainly touted as one of the main reasons that we're here. If social media didn't exist the way that it did, would we even be having this panel? Ethan, is there anything you wanted to add to that? Or was that just an enthusiastic hand gesture that was like, I'm with you?
It was a bit of both. One I'm with all of you. I mean, I disagree. Like I said, now one thing about mental health and body positivity, I mean, you always have to have a yin and yang, right inside there. It's always about love. Like I say it again, it's always about loving your body and having a positive influence on, the whole planet. And that does mean social media, but we got to do our own. We can't, and what Travis said, we can't depend on anything else. We have to do it on our own. That's the truth.
Thank you for sharing that. This is absolutely just as important to be doing offline as it is online. So I would love to close with just a couple thoughts from anybody on the panel who wants to speak on this. How has today's conversation helped open your own echo chamber? Yeah, go for it, Marisa.
I guess for me, this just reminded me that I need to do better, for the people who follow me, just showing all sides of myself and really just, this really made me think, have I been doing this? Have I been showing only the good? And I really want to make sure that I show all sides of this. And in a way, this has also kind of reaffirmed my faith in humanity, seeing all these amazing people talking about this, and it just really makes me happy to see this.
Thank you so much for sharing that. What a wonderful note to end on. Thank you all so much for sharing your stories. And if you go to the Conversationalist Instagram, you can see there's a carousel of all the panelists. You can follow them all on Instagram if anybody's story resonated with you, or if anyone's didn't and you want to investigate that further and start to interrogate those feelings, as Travis said, absolutely, this would be a good place to start. It's not like we have the answers here. We just have experiences and ideas. So thank you all for being so open, for sharing your own experiences, and for your willingness to learn and to engage and to self-reflect and to say, oh, you know what, we can all be a little bit better than we were 35 minutes and 42 seconds ago.
Wow, James, thank you so much for that incredible panel discussion. Thank you so much to all of you. I told you the time was going to fly. There's so much more we could have talked about. And the conversation does not end here. So I'm hoping that each and every one of you, including everyone who's joined the conversation with us tonight in the live chat, will head to our community on Geneva in our FaceTime room, which is our video room, where we can dive deeper with each of you, ask you more about your experiences, and talk more about this topic, because we're not going to be able to get to everything tonight, but there's so much left to discuss. So thank you all so much for being here. I personally learned so much from all of you, and I feel more equipped going into Thanksgiving next week, having heard your personal experiences. So thank you for being vulnerable, for being open, and for sharing your wonderful selves with us tonight. So thank you all so much. And we're going to say goodbye to our panelists for now. And then I'm going to stay on screen with James to ask them a couple of questions. But thank you so much to all of our panelists. We'll see you soon. Bye, everyone. Oh, so sad to see them go. James, how are you feeling? What are your thoughts? How did that conversation go for you? Oh, James, your mic is on mute. There we go.
I'm feeling silent, actually. I'm feeling inspired to learn more. What Marisa said, it absolutely sticks with me, because as somebody who exists on the internet, and that, you know, like the Conversationalist has grown over the pandemic, and with a growing platform comes incredible responsibility. And for me, it's always like, what can I do better? Like, what's the perspective here that I'm missing? You know, I might be the conduit, but I am not the end all. Like, I don't know the answers. I would argue that nobody has all the answers about body positivity, because nobody has, you know, experiences being a body on this earth are not monolithic. So for me, I loved the intentionality of calling ourselves into, like, what are we complicit in? What can we learn more about? Where can we do better? Like, even though we are all attempting to be part of the solution in some way, shape, or form, we all do missteps. So how do we hold ourselves accountable? You know, there's such a fear of cancel culture, I think. And we could do a whole other panel on that. But I think the point is, like, even beyond like people calling you out for something, like, what is your responsibility to leaving something a little bit better than you found it, and to educating yourself along, you know, even if you know something and have some, you know, talking points on a specific subject, what's your responsibility to deepen that learning?
Completely. I think about that all the time, especially as someone who gets to take a back seat to a lot of these conversations. You know, I try to find ways to continue the dialogue, even with myself, after events like this, because I think sometimes we forget that these conversations can start within us before we even take that conversation to another person. So, James, I'd be curious, you know, to what extent did tonight's conversation break open your own echo chamber? What are you taking away from these panelists?
I think I'm on the extreme version of this, because I am a health at every size personal trainer. So I believe that we can promote healthy behaviors for people at any size in a way that is not weight centric at all. And I believe that weight stigma, as opposed to weight and like the O word itself, are the issues. The way that we treat people for what their bodies are is actually the bigger issue. And it's very comfortable to be in that bubble of like health at every size dietitians and trainers and influencers, and like, you know, just sit and think about that, and to hear a diversity of experiences from people that aren't clinicians, that don't do this for a job, to hear like, what are the conversations happening in day-to-day life? That's not something I'm always privy to, because as like a harm reduction for my own self, I have created a circle where I can go online and exist safely. So like, I don't see a lot of the toxic ideologies unless I go find them. And of course, I don't think anyone today was like being a toxic ideology, but I do think that everyone was bringing an honest opinion of their own experiences, and it's not from a clinical perspective. And so that breaks open my own echo chamber a little bit, because it humanizes and normalizes and it depathologizes a lot of the way we look at body positivity. And it's an important reality check for somebody like me who exists in this space professionally, to reconnect with like what's actually going on outside of like the yoga training room.
Yes, totally. And for anyone who's still with us in the chat, we see some wonderful faces. If you have any questions for James, now is your chance. Feel free to pop them into the live chat. We'll try to get to as many as we can. But James, tonight you served as our moderator, really giving the floor to our incredible panelists. But now we want to turn the table and really hear from you. Obviously, you have a lot of experience in this space as a professional in this nutrition space, as well as a podcast host, among many other talents and skills. Where did your journey begin? Can you share a little bit more with us about how you became privy to this, you know, health and wellness space, and what body positivity means to you?
I became privy to all of this because I was the problem initially. I was somebody who grew up in a household where certain foods were demonized, other foods were elevated. We put moral obligations on foods. I won't use any specifics just in case anybody listening, would be triggered by that. I think that's something that we can all be cognizant of when we're having these conversations. And in my household, the way that we exercised was like our moral worth and things like that. And I entered the entertainment industry. I'm an actor. That's what I do most of the time when we're not in a pandemic. And I was subject to scrutiny and criticism from casting directors, creative teams, other people. And it's important to note that the scrutiny for me as a thin person does not compare to what is experienced by fat people, people who live in larger bodies, people whose identities intersect differently than my own do. I am a non-binary person who has thin privilege. That's a whole other panel discussion we could have, right? And in learning about my own body image, I started reckoning with my relationship with food, and I learned that I had an eating disorder. And so I worked with a dietitian who is a health at every size dietitian that took a weight neutral approach, and we repaired my relationship with food and started looking into the body image aspect of things. And through therapy, have learned that that is actually much more related to my gender than it is my relationship with food. And I think had my gender been accepted in society, and if I had the language and the tools to understand myself as a non-binary person from a much younger age, I don't think that I would have had such difficult relationship with my reflection. And eating disorders are relatively common. I mean, the number one cause of death in adolescent girls ages 16 to 24 is anorexia nervosa, which is such a horrifying statistic because it's completely reversible, it's completely preventable, it's completely treatable. And, that doesn't have to be a statistic at all. So my journey was recovering from all of that and going the opposite direction to say, okay, well, I don't feel safe going into a gym anymore because everyone's promoting this look, this program, this, food. And I don't want that. I want to have a space where people can connect with their bodies and who they really are. And, like Amanda said at the very beginning of this conversation, it's just about you and your relationship to your own body. So I started trying to fill the gaps in the industry where I saw a need for something and have connected with like-minded people on that.
James, I first of all, thank you for sharing your journey. I hope you know that even though I've only known you for a year, I have learned so much from you.
Oh.
For those of you who don't even know the Conversationalist, at a time where we were producing many videos and articles and podcasts, James, there's even so many terms and language aspects and different, areas in the body positivity, health and wellness space that I had never tapped into until having met you. And so it sounds like you're on your own journey and I'm on my own journey, but I hope you know that I've learned so much from your journey. And I love following everything that you've been able to curate on social media. I mean, you've really built a community of human beings dedicated towards having these conversations and diving into topics that matter. And so, first of all, just wanted to say thank you because you are an inspiration to me in so many ways. And you've taught me so much about my own personal journey with body image. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. That was so kind of you. I have loved watching the Conversationalist grow, and I learn from the people in the Conversationalist that get platformed that have completely different experiences and opinions of my own. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge again that anything that I know about body positivity is because I was called in by my fat friends that were like, stop posting this image about body positivity. This movement is not for you in this way, actually. Like, your job is to be an ally to fat people through platforming our voices, but not to take the center spotlight there when it comes to images. And that, those are missteps that I made. And so everything that I have learned has been from fat Black women. So, that is, I think, it's important for us to acknowledge, like we said earlier, and Fatima said this earlier, where this came from. These are not my ideas. I just happen to love words. And so if I can express things through words and that helps connect someone with an ideology that there may have been a disconnect with before, then cool, I'm happy to be that conduit. But the buck does not stop with me in any way. So
you're also so humble, but yes.
Will you please tell all my exes that I don't think that they saw this? No, I'm kidding.
James, okay, we have so many questions in the chat. I don't know if we're gonna be able to get to a few of them, but Alexandra wants to know, how do you develop healthy relationships with food?
Oh, great question. I wish I could answer this in like a bite-sized thing. It is a lifelong process. Intuitive eating is the most empirically supported form of eating disorder recovery, which helps us repair our relationship with food, unlearn the diet mentality. It helps us reconnect with our biological hunger cues and gets us back in touch with like essentially how we ate as children before we had all these societal implications on what we're supposed to do. So I would say intuitive eating, not because I'm trying to sell you anything, but because it is the most empirically supported peer-reviewed form of like harm reductive, like self-understanding that we have. And so I would look into intuitive eating, which is a book written in 1995 by Evelyn Tripoli and Elise Resch. Both of them are registered dietitians who created that particular therapeutic technique. You can work with intuitive eating counselors, or you can work with dietitians that incorporate intuitive eating principles. So that's what I would say.
Amazing. And I know you shared a little bit about your personal journey, but Taylor wants to know how you got into the health at every size space. And maybe for people who are tuning in that aren't familiar with health at every size, can you share a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, Health at Every Size is a book written by Dr. Lindo Bacon. They wrote both Health at Every Size and Body Respect, both of which I highly recommend if the ideas that I'm about to spout out at you are new. Health at Every Size is the principle that we can promote healthy behaviors for anyone at any size. And it's the idea that weight is not an indicator of health, and health is not an indicator of weight, and you do not have a moral obligation to look like anything. So in a lot of medical spaces, like we look at medicalized fat phobia, and so like if I were my friend Jordan Underwood, they're at Jordan Allen Hall on Instagram. We talk about this a lot. I got into the hay space to answer your question because I was a fat phobic person that was toxic in a lot of spaces and was called in by people like Jordan and people like my friends. It's like, can we challenge this mentality? And so Hayes looks at weight stigma as like the primary indicator of the health of people who live in larger bodies, and as opposed to it being the weight itself. And it says regardless of what you weigh, what your size is, or what your body is in general, we can look at promoting healthy behaviors for anyone truly at any size. It's a heady concept, and because we're taught the exact opposite in society, it really does take a couple of reads and like immersing yourself in the space. So I still consider myself a baby and a beginner when I'm learning about this. So I welcome you to join me on that journey.
Same here. And Taylor, thanks you for sharing that, as do I. And James, I also so appreciate how many times you've shared the phrase call in. I feel like, again, we could have a whole panel on cancel culture and call out culture, but how important is it to recognize that every opportunity to learn and grow is an opportunity to be called in to grow, rather than, feeling silenced or unable to learn new things. So I just want to thank you for sharing that phrase. I want to start using that more often to feel like a call to action rather than feeling shame for not knowing something. That's so awesome.
Thank you. I liked the phrasing because I didn't come up with it, of course. It's I think it's actually like from abolitionist texts, in the way that like we look at coexisting in radical spaces that are working on creating equitable systems. And it's the idea that like you want to bring somebody into the group and be accepted, and it's like we don't want to alienate somebody for being ignorant, for not being exposed to the same things that we might have been, and we also don't want to make ourselves seem like we are better or superior in any way. Like, just because I was exposed to health at every size rhetoric and am constantly working on unlearning my own fat phobia, that doesn't make me a better person. It just means that I may have more experience in a specific field. I talk about this a lot, like when in gender education, like the worst thing in the world, I don't think, is actually to be transphobic. I think the worst thing in the world is to understand that you are transphobic and then just not care. And sometimes that, oh, I just don't care about this, happens when we don't invite people into the conversation and say, oh, I see your humanity. I see that there is good in you. I see that you're passionate about something. You may be misguided because you have a different life experience. And that different life experience doesn't make you any less worthy of having a conversation with. It does nuance. I know we're doing like No Nuance November on TikTok, but I'm giving nuance today. We're dive deep December, I guess. The nuance there is like, okay, they do require different levels of care and like to have those conversations like we're doing on the Conversationalist. And at the same time, like, I think it's important to bring people into the circle and to be inviting. That's what I personally find to be the most effective than it is to beat people on the head and ostracize for not having access to the same information. Like, there's stuff I don't know either, and like we always have to humble ourselves.
Totally. So many snaps to that. You're getting so much love in the chat. And of course, I agree with Shivanshi. You are such a great conversationalist, James. And there's so many other questions I want to ask you, but I want to end on this question that Andy popped into the chat. Obviously, Thanksgiving is next week, as well as the holiday season on the horizon. Do you personally have any coping mechanisms or tips for the holiday season?
Perhaps an unpopular opinion, I don't like the holiday season. I'm a child of divorce, so I think that really plays into it. Like, it was never a particularly fun time. And for me, I spend as much time as I can connecting with my chosen family. And I happen to love my biological family that I was like given at birth. And like, that makes me sound like I was adopted. I was not adopted, even though I love people who are adopted, and people who are adopted are great. Tangent. Coping mechanisms at the holidays. Definitely surrounding food. Eat what you want when you want it. The diet culture mentality is not something that will ever serve you in a positive light when it comes to the holiday season. The amount of gentleness you practice with yourself tends to be like your key indicator of success. The more that I make space to like breathe and cry and be angry and upset and frustrated and stressed and like not understand why we have to do all of these commercial things like for the holidays, the more I make space for the fact that it drives me nuts, the easier it is to deal with the fact that it drives me nuts. And so, pushing everything down is always not necessarily going to be the best idea. So I would say that definitely looking at like how you can be gentle with yourself and connecting with the people that make you feel like you, and remembering that your worth is not defined by anything somebody else says. Like, we're all going to get a comment that's going to hurt. We're going to have to deal with family members. We're going to have to deal with the pandemic, politics. Like, it's a really difficult time to exist right now. And so that, coupled with a difficult holiday season, like, you're not supposed to be good at this. Like, no one is supposed to be good at this. So let's relieve ourselves from the obligation of doing that.
Wow. James, thank you so much. That advice resonates. I'm going to carry that with me into the holiday season. And just thank you for being here and for sharing your expertise with us tonight and your experiences. I just loved watching you in action and being our guest host. And I really mean it when I say you really emphasize everything that our brand stands for. You are a true conversationalist through and through. And I feel so lucky to know you. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the panelists who shared such incredibly wonderful, wonderful pieces of insight that I will be sitting with for sure. So
yes. And before you leave, James, how can we follow you, stay in touch, and follow your work?
At James is Smiling on Instagram. That is the only place on the internet that I exist. So that's where you can follow my work.
You want to plug the podcast?
Oh, absolutely. So the podcast is at full.soul.nutrition. I co-host it with my best friend who is a registered dietitian. Full Soul Nutrition is for private practice. It is for brand. She is a registered dietitian who does intuitive eating and also mindful movement and coaching as far as all of the health at every size stuff goes. So she's been one of my biggest teachers. And those are the places that you can come connect with me. Come say hi. I love having new friends and listening to your stories and learning about you. So
amazing. We love Katie. We love you. And just thank you for being a part of TC. We're so lucky to have you.
Thanks for having me. You may get to see me again at some point soon. You never know.
Yes, I hope so. I really hope so. Yeah. James, thank you so much. This was one of our best panels we've ever had. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I hope to see you again soon in person, ideally, in the coming weeks and months. But just on behalf of our whole team and community, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thanks for doing what you do. Always an honor to share this space with you.
Bye, James. Oh my goodness. I hope everyone is feeling just as inspired by James as I am. They are truly a leader for our generation. And if you are not following them on social media, now is your chance. At James is Smiling and at full.soul.nutrition. So many spaces to continue this important conversation. So thank you all for being here. Chloe, Safa, Alex, Rena, Taylor, Andy, so many awesome faces in the chat. thank you for being a part of the conversation. And we're going to head over to Geneva to keep the conversation going in our FaceTime room. So thank you all for being here. Come join us if you're not in our community. Like I said, it's so easy. Just do it. Whip out your phone, text the word unify to 877-222-1119, and we will welcome you with open arms into our community where we can keep these conversations going 24/7 about body image, body positivity, and any other topic under the sun. So thank you again to our panelists and to our wonderful guest moderator, James, and we hope you all have a wonderful holiday season. I'm Sophie.